Hello, welcome back to Iwaihime. Despite having this, I want to at least try to finish the the current chapter it's on. Who knows? Maybe I'll keep doing that. Keep doing at least this game. I returned to the Doll Memorial Hall. Though the main shrine was constantly full of people, this place was always desolate. Felt as though this place was far removed from reality. I think I went there because I didn't want to go back to reality until I sorted out my feelings. Or maybe I was guided there. She was waiting in front of the Doll Memorial Hall. Hi, hello.
Suzu.
I tried to say Kurakami, but my mouth said Suzu instead. Who is Suzu? Was I mixing her up with someone with a similar name? But I didn't know anyone called that. It's the Mutsu in you calling out to Susanome. She smiled wryly when she saw even I was taken aback.
1000年遅い。のこのこと今頃来たか、ムツ。
I didn't understand what Kurakami was saying, but though her words were venomous, she also seemed a little happy too.
僕が必ず君を救うから。理由はわからないけれど、それが僕の使命なんだ。
1000年遅い。盆栽に拳を砕いて泣き寝入りしたお前に、今さら何ができる？だが、それを笑う気はない。1000年を経て、ようやく我が呪いは完全に熟した。その最後に、すすの村の血を最も強く受け継ぐお前がこうして現れるのは、まるで運命かのよう。お前のすすをもらう。そして、持てる力のすべてを出し尽くして、この地に災いをもたらすのだ。
君が六神様なのか？
わかるのか、陸奥の末裔よ。
君が呪いたいほどの辛い思いをしてきたことを僕は否定しない。でもそれは黒神さんに向けるべきものでもない。
承知している。この娘には我も同情を禁じ得ない。だからこそこの最後の時にこの娘の悲願を叶えてやりたいと思う。お前に抱かれながらその役割を終えさせてやるのだ。
それが黒神さんの願いならば僕も叶えたい。でも黒神さんは少なくともまだそれを望んではいないんだ。
なぜお前にそれがわかる？
彼女はそれでも僕を拒絶したんだ。
I was a descendant of the cursed village of Susuda. Though minuscule compared to the descendants of the sacrifice, I should have had much more Soot in me than the average person. That was why Kurakami had called me corrupted, and why she couldn't afford to be with me.
僕との再会が彼女の悲願だったとしても、彼女は1000年をかけてこの地を守ってきた責任をまだ手放したくはないんだ。もちろん彼女にはいつだってそれを手放す権利があると思う。彼女が強いられた理不尽な運命を彼女はいつだって返上していい。でもそれは彼女が決めることで、それを決めるのは僕でもなければ君でもない。
この1000年さまざまな輩を見てきたが、お前はやはり特別だ。 我が運命の歯車に噛み合うだけの資格がある。
君にはこの地を呪うにふさわしい正当な権利があるに違いない。だけれど彼女の気持ちを無視していい権利なんかないんだ。
不思議な男よ。お前は我の千年の悲願の見届け人として使わされた天の使いに違いない。どのような運命がお前をここへ導いたかは知らぬが、人の子ごときにもはや覆せる運命ではない。
But the whirlwind. Fallen leaves swirled at her feet, giving her a menacing aura. Next, antlers next antlers befitting a deer god slowly spattered out her head. I recognized her. This was the image that had come to mind the whole time I was listening to Miss Hinagata's story.
我は六神彦の命の呪いなり、千年の眠りより目覚め、今こそこの地に災いをもたらさん。
まだだ。それは彼女が決める。
鈴の目の役目はすでに終わった。
終わってない。終わらせない。そうでなかったら彼女の千年の苦しみと悲しみが何の意味も持たなくなる。
True. Though she had been treated like a prisoner, she'd always had one avenue of escape. But she had never chosen death. She could have rejected her food or bit off her tongue. No matter how hellish her life was, she denied death at every turn. It couldn't have been easy. Over the last 1,000 years, the temptation of dying, of being released from her suffering, should have come to her countless times. A millennium of nightmares offered many opportunities for that. Perhaps she was resisting the urge to put an end to it all, even at this very moment.
それを耐えて生きてきた1000年間をどう決着するか。それは彼女にだけ許された彼女だけの権利だ。それをお前が奪ったら彼女の1000年には何も残らない。何の意味もない。
さえずるな、人の米。
Her eyes glowed scarlet. At that moment, the countless dolls lining the hall collapsed one after another like dominoes. Every cell in my body was overwhelmed by an invisible force.
時は満ちたのだ、小僧。お前はただこの娘の1000年をねぎらうためだけに使わされたに過ぎぬ。さえずらず、ただひれ伏して我が運命を受け入れよ。
君の運命じゃない。僕と君があることが運命ならば、それは彼女が決める運命に従う歯車に過ぎない。決めるのは彼女だ。僕はそれを守るためにここにある。
何の真似か。
This is scheming. I lowered my hips and readied my fist. My fist was to be dedicated to God. I was faced with a god and a catastrophe that should be prevented. There's no better time than now. I had trained myself in this fist for as long as I could remember. It was all for this very moment.
お前の意志の強さを拳に宿しているのだろうとは思う。だがそれ以上の何かもそれ以下の何かも感じぬ。
I hated to admit it, but she was right. I had the desire to resist fate, but that was it. All I had was a flesh and blood fist. It wasn't glowing with some miraculous power that dwelled within.
だがお前の奉納を受けよう。
Do?
1000年を経て木が熟したこの時に陸奥の末裔がここにある。お前には報じる資格がある。いいだろう陸奥。 この娘のための義憤を拳に込め、存分に我に打ちかかるがよい。無駄を知ることになろう。だがそれでよい。人の子は無駄を思い知ることなくして死すことを心残りと呼ぶ。お前にそれをさせたくはない。
Oh yeah, creepy laugh, of course. Every drop of sweat and blood during training was all for this. About everything I accumulated over those years into my fist. If it was fated 1,000 years ago that I would be here today, the night asked fate to endow my fist with a miracle to match. I clenched my fist so hard it almost broke.
Haja Kensho. 邪悪を打ち破りて正しきを示す鈴原流親善武術鈴原鈴夢いざ
しかと受け取ったぞ。お前の奉納を。
Did it not work? It didn't work. Well, Susumu's face warped with agony as he fell on one knee. He had certainly punched the god in the abdomen. But his fist had broken. Blood gushed out of his torn skin. What? This music doesn't feel very matching with what's going on. The music doesn't match very well. The god's body had been too rigid and cold, like it was made of metal, specifically bronze. Crimson pearls dripped to the ground and scattered at his feet like red flowers.
哀れな男よ。お前の千年はもう一度無力さを思い出すためのものだったというのか。
そんな
しかとお前の奉納を受け取ったぞ。なぜ涙を流す？もう泣く必要はない。お前たちはこれより添い遂げる。我が運命の中で1000年ぶりの再会を噛みしめ合うがよい。
Oh, God. She spread her hands and gently wrapped them around Suzumu's head, almost like she was comforting a wailing infant. Suzumu's tears were not in pain, merely anger at his own powerlessness for all of his efforts, and had done nothing to save her, for he lamented his failure. However, those feelings slowly drifted off into the void, in the god's gentle embrace. Warm as a blanket, all his regrets melted away. Before long, Suzumu's consciousness faded away, as though drifting off to sleep. Oh, no. By the time she spread open her hands, Susumu had vanished into nothing. Oh, no, what? Before long, all lingering affection faded from her face, giving way to an expression truly suitable for a curse.
人にどもよ、刮目するがよい。我は六神彦の御事の呪いなり。今こそこの地は報いを受ける時。神の怒りに震えながらひれ伏すがよい。
Oh no. Those on the shrine's grounds could see her rising into the sky. The divine curse looked down from on high and sneered malevolently.
今こそ神の復讐の時。
Black clouds filled the air and blotted out the sky as though she were willing them to. The townsfolk could only stop and gape in astonishment. They all saw something black falling from the sky. And we all know what this is. Was it snow? Feathers? No, it was judgment. The asphalt, concrete, tiles, and floors were stained black in the blink of an eye. There was a flash of scarlet, and a moment later, flames taller than skyscrapers erupted forth. Dragons of fire sputtered out over the town one after another. The flames licked the streets as though they had a mind of their own, and engulfed them all in succession. Followed by the hellfire, the townsfolk cried out as they succumbed to their agony. Yet the cursed flames would not allow them to die until they'd been scorched to charcoal. Oh, that is horrible! The townsfolk suffered the fires of hell until they were no longer recognizable as human. The high-rise buildings were devoured by fire, one after the next. People scrambled to leave from their windows, though few made it that far. Screams mixed with the howl of the scorching winds, like the roar of the sea. The manifestation of the curse listened with a faint smile, but before long, she cast down her eyes and shook her head slightly. Did this disaster wrench her heart too? Well.
この程度の災いではまるで足らぬ。
Ah, man. And you're still hearing it all?
兄上様の嘆きを慰むにはまるで足らぬ。
I mean, she's still pissed.
もっとすすを集めねば。もっとすすを集め、もっと壮絶なる災いを。
God damn.
兄上様に捧げるにふさわしき災いを。
Even after the sun had set, the flames of the divine curse blazed fiercely as ever. The likes of the children of men were powerless to put it out. All they could do was wait for the wrath of the divine to subside, just like in the days of yore. The two looked down upon the scene from a rift in the clouds. They had no bodies, but they could feel each other's warmth, signaling that they were together. Since they had no bodies, they had no mouths, and therefore could not speak. However, they could exchange feelings. Both of them were happy to be reunited after 1,000 years, of course. But the heartbreak they felt at the scene before them far outweighed that. She had fought for 1,000 years to keep this hell from breaking loose, and at this conclusion spat in the face of her struggle. Unable to bask in their joy, the pair could do nothing but silently behold the hell unfolding below them. He was bitter. Suzumu's heart gradually filled with frustration. He hated himself for being too weak to prevent this conclusion that saddened her too. "Don't worry about it," she whispered. "We finally met again after 1,000 years. That's good enough for me." But Suzumu couldn't accept it. No, he didn't want to accept it. He absolutely didn't want to acknowledge this end as her salvation. But their time was up. Their emotions gradually melted into a warm slumber. Farewell, Mutsu, Suzuhara. We will meet again in another life. Well, what now? He's gonna do that. The ending? No. Huh? I can't. There's no way I can accept this. What's going on? Mutsu punched a rock showered by the waterfall. His face was damp with tears and splashes of water. After his exile, Mutsu tried again to save Susanome, but the villager standing guard discovered him and wounded him so badly he only barely escaped with his life. And for 3 days the curse was sealed into Susanome's body. With that, merely saving her was pointless. He had to find a way to break the curse sealed within her. Afterwards, he had taken the guise of a traveling monk and traversed the land, looking into spells and hidden arts. But as what he sought to break was a black art, he had been unable to acquire any information at all. The more he investigated, the deeper his despair grew, and one day, in his travels, he had learned that Susanome had already passed away.
この拳がでかい。あの時もっと拳だけでなく腕も、いやこの身もろとも粉々になるほどの覚悟があっただろ。 あの金を奇跡だって起こせたかもしれないのに、なぜあの最初で最後の唯一の機会に奇跡を起こせなかったのか。
Oh. Uzu had lunged with his fist in the moment Tsunome was being sealed into the bell. Back then he merely punched as his emotions had driven him. But the more time passed, the more Mutsu became bitterly aware that he had lost his only chance. The human fist couldn't possibly break through a temple bell. However, had he managed to bring about a miracle, he could have saved her. Mutsu wept as he punched the cliff behind the waterfall over and over again. I want a miracle, even if it means sacrificing my own body. Please grant me a miracle to save her. Just then, Mutsu heard a voice from the heavens.
そなたの深き嘆き、我が耳にも届いたぞ。我こそは六神彦の御事なり。
So this is the brother, I'm assuming. The one that is... Okay. It was a young and composed male voice. Mutsu looked at the heavens, ignoring the waterfall pouring on him, and prostrated himself.
そなたは何を望むか。
どうか奇跡を、あの釣り鐘を割ることのできた奇跡を。
人のこの拳で梵鐘を割るなど、確かに奇跡でもなくばかなうまい。なれば聞け、人の子、陸奥よ。今日よりその拳を何者にも負けぬよう強く気高く鍛錬し、我に報じよ。それを積み重ね、子に引き継ぎ、我に報じ続けよ。千年を重ねして。
So that's what this is.
そなたの千年後の末裔は、その拳に奇跡を宿すであろう。
Oh, wait. The reason it didn't work... the reason it didn't work because he already used it. He used the one miracle back in that one chapter, destroying that bell with I forget her name, the friend in it, with the best friend in there, or yeah, you know what I'm talking about. A child and man could do nothing against a god's curse. That was why they'd had no choice but to rely on such black arts. But even so...
1000年で、たったの1000年で、ありがたや、ありがたき幸せ。1000年の精進、この蜜、必ずや捧げてみせまする。そして必ず、我が血を引きし者の拳にて、神の怒りのすすを払ってみせまする。
And thus the whole thing started with that. The founding of the Suzuhara divine tribute style dates back a millennium. I said the founder was a traveling monk and a mountain priest. There was sort of the monk part. As he was training under a waterfall, he received a divine revelation to dedicate his tempered fist to God. That fist is not for fighting. It is to be dedicated to God. It preaches respecting the laws of honor, revering God and one's ancestors, and other spiritual practices. That fist and that mentality was passed on through generations, and thus 6 or so centuries passed. Mutsu and Suzunome's name were forgotten, and as was the name of the god that fist was dedicated to. But Mutsu's descendants continued devoting themselves to hunting their minds and fists, and so another 4 centuries passed, bringing us to the present. The Suzuhara divine tribute style has been passed down to this day Its current instructor is Gentaro Suzahara. He is its 60th instructor since its founding. His son Tsunome had been undergoing intense training since he was a boy, intending to become the 61st instructor. If all of this is true, that would make this the oldest style of martial arts in Japanese history. The Suzahara Divine Tribute style and its 1,000-year history have been entrusted to young Suzume and will likely keep surviving far into the future. Furthermore, every New Year's you can see it being practiced publicly on the bell of a temple close to the dojo. This New Year's, Susumu was sworn to become the art's 1,000-year successor and punched a bell for the first time from a local community magazine. Oh. Okay. I punched the tree trunk with all my might, but this wouldn't be enough. I'd never attained it like this. Attain what? I didn't know, but I knew I had to attain it. This fist had been honed for 1,000 years. If I bore the thoughts and feelings imbued into it from back then I couldn't be satisfied with how weak it was now. This fist had been passed down to me from its founder over a millennium. The Suzahara Divine Tribute style had been tempered over that time with each generation. I was his 1,000-year successor. I tried to attain the peak that such a weighty history represented. So the real reason it didn't work, it was because he wasn't the 1,000th successor yet. That it said he was going to be, but he wasn't yet. So it was kind of premature of doing that. Okay. I recited those words and rated myself before I punched. But I still don't understand. Was I punching to crush evil? Or to demonstrate the righteous path? I couldn't even tell that much. What is going on?
これ読んだよ。すごいね。1000年の歴史があるんだね。アンビリーバブバブ。スズムも簡単にお寺の鐘をパンチしたんだ。ゴーンって
ゴツって感じかな。
Oh, no, he did punch it already.
でも、なんでお寺の鐘をパンチするの？
カイソがお寺の鐘を打って修行をしたと伝えられてるんだ。カイソが絶命するとき、その鐘が割れたんだって。以来、ススハラ流では梵鐘を割れて初めて神域に達することができると言われてる。それを試すために毎年お寺の鐘を打つようになったのが始まりだって聞いたよ。
それ、お寺の人に知られたら、もう二度と鐘を打たせてくれなくなるね。
それもそうだね。でもお寺の人には悪いけれど。え？僕は必ず割ってみせる。
It's at the end now. Yep, there. Okay, now it's the end. Okay, that was a hell of an ending with Iwaihime. Hope you enjoyed this finale for this chapter of Iwaihime. Honestly, I want this game. Just like Higurashi, I want this game to become an anime. Because it should be so freaking good. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, then subscribe, check out other videos I've done, and hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye.